There's something that we always forget in our striving for spiritual realization and deeper understanding. And that is the fact that beyond all of our life circumstances, all of our history, good and bad, all of our personality characteristics, essentially what our life, what our being is a wave of love. Every experience we have, every up and down, every trough and crest within the wave of our life is an expression of a deep, abiding love. And we forget that because we don't necessarily know how to appreciate love from others. And in that regard, we also don't know how to express and allow love for ourselves, because we go out seeking things beyond us to fulfill us. For people that are just going about their life in the general scheme of things, in the general world, they're seeking satisfaction through career, or they're seeking satisfaction through a partner, or through money, or through food, or through drugs, or through music, or whatever it might be. They're seeking outside of themselves for a sense of peacefulness, a sense of well-being, that deep, abiding sense of love that we all essentially crave. And even from a spiritual perspective, what do? We sometimes feel that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, that there's something fundamentally wrong with who we are. And if we would only just get right, spiritually speaking, by either finding the one true path, or by meeting that one person who has all the answers, that if we just listen to everything that they say, everything will go smoothly and perfectly. We're still seeking outside of ourselves for, again, that sense of peace, that sense of love, that sense of acceptance. And meditation, yogic meditation in particular, can be very helpful because it allows you to get some detachment from the personality, from the mind, from all those thoughts that cause us to look outside of ourselves. And every now and then when people practice meditation correctly, they'll catch a glimpse of that restful awareness where everything feels just right, where everything is in its proper place and there's no need for anything other than simply existing. And this can be likened to some of those experiences maybe you've had when you've been out in nature and you've seen a sunset, or you've seen the sun reflecting off the ocean, or you've just become enamored with a flower, or a beautiful garden, or a mountaintop, or whatever it might be, where there's this sense of abiding peace, where there's nothing but the beauty of your experience. And so we have to remember that this love we feel during that time, it is our very nature. Anything outside of us that causes us to feel it is only a reflection, reflecting back to us what is always within us, always a part of our inner essence. But our trouble is, we give too much time, attention, and definition to what is around us, to what is going on around us, than to simply learning to turn within and rest within that space of peace. Now, as I mentioned, meditation itself, and even prayer, if you get into it deeply enough to where your mind is essentially transcended, you will break through into that direct experience of clarity. But there are other things that we can do, practically speaking, which can support our meditation practice and help us develop this realization that we are fundamentally a wave of love. Number one, it is learning to love and honor and appreciate who you are as a unique individual. It's learning to honor and acknowledge and appreciate what your actual true needs are. But again, we're so used to, we've been raised and trained to want to please our parents or want to please our peers or our friends that we have forgotten just how important our own unique path is. And many people go through their entire adult life still subconsciously trying to make their parents happy because their parents themselves have been separated from the ability to experience this love within them, either due to trauma or just being raised improperly or never having anyone give them the chance to just be who they are. So one of the first things we need to start doing is considering every day, every action you take, questioning that action and saying, or asking, I should say, am I doing this because it is right for me? It is honoring my path, my individualized aspect of this wholeness of life right now? Or am I doing this because of false obligations to others? And this is subtle because on one hand, if you weren't very well, if you were sick, if you weren't feeling good, and it was obvious, you had all the symptoms of physical disease, would your friends come around and say, hey, let's do all this stuff together. I know you'll like it if you just get into it. No, they would see that you are in a state of disease, and they would say, looks like you really just need to rest today, so I'm going to let you be. But since most of us are walking around with a lot of psychological distress that is more subconscious, no one acknowledges it. So they think that they're trying to help you by taking your mind off things, by distracting you, by getting you to waste your time and money and energy and resources and things that when you actually truly really think about it, you wouldn't really engage in that if you knew you had the choice. If you knew you had the choice, that's the key there. So part of realizing that you are innately a wave of love is to first and foremost start thinking about the reasons that you do things throughout the day and ask yourself, am I doing this because really this is important to me? Will be fulfilling and nourishing to me? Or am I doing this because I have a certain friend that for some reason I think I need them around in order to feel appropriate and loved and validated? We have to consider these things. Now, one of the more difficult arguments that can come up is this can make a person say, well, you're just being selfish. Well, there are certain things you have to do out of duty. If you have a child and you have to provide for that child, yes, you may have to go work a job you don't like so that you can buy food for the child. That is not necessarily the kind of thing I'm talking about here with these unnecessary obligations. That is a necessary obligation. What I'm talking about is more those things in your life that you do, not because it's for you, but because it's expected in a way. Think about spending time with people during the holidays. There's a deep expectation of that. But you know that really you've been working hard all year long, and that what you really truly want to do is simply rest during the holidays. You want to turn your attention within. You want to be by yourself a little bit. You want to rejuvenate yourself because you got to go back to work again when the holidays are over, and you need to be refreshed and renewed to do your work. Well, think about it this way. If that were true for you, and your family truly loved you, wouldn't it make sense for you to be able to say to them, this is my experience. I've been working hard. I've been focusing on my duties to take care of my family, to provide for myself so that I can be responsible, not a burden on others. And there's a holiday coming up, and I know you want to see me, and maybe I want to see you too. Again, it's different for everybody, right? But I know that right now, it's more important for me to stay home and rest. Because if I don't, someday maybe I'll make myself sick, and that's the only way that you'll let me rest, is by being sick. So when we have a healthy-minded family and healthy-minded support system, they'll understand that. They'll say, hey, look, I get it. We love you, but your health and your well-being is more important. So you rest up, and then when the time comes, we'll get together. That's a healthy kind of relationship. And many of us do have that kind of relationship, but some of us are not so blessed, which means that if you try to say that to someone, they'll say, oh, well, I've done it I've done it all my life. I've gone to things I don't want to go to, so you have to as well. Well, that's not a reason to do it. And that pattern will only be broken when someone decides to break the pattern. So if you have children, if you have a family, wouldn't you want them to do what they need to do for themselves to be strong and healthy and whole? If so, great. Then you can start breaking that pattern now by loving yourself and taking care of yourself so that you are healthy and whole and refreshed when you need it. And what you'll find is that the more you start doing this in your meditations, in your prayer, in your daily life, you'll start catching glimpses and realizations of the fact that you actually truly are a wave of love. That every movement, every thought, every experience, painful, pleasurable, or otherwise, is actually an expression of a much deeper, abiding peace, and that you are playing your role within the world as an aspect of God, divine consciousness. And that the good is meant to be enjoyed, the bad is meant to be dealt with appropriately, and that the good and the bad both create contrast that help direct you to where you want to go. So even what you consider to be bad is part of this wave of love, because it's part of the movement of the wave that helps to generate momentum in another direction by making a choice based on that feeling of what you consider to be bad or difficult. And the more you start to honor yourself and take care of yourself, the more, number one, people who can't accept that about you or can't support or understand or feel the capacity for love, self-love even, they'll start to fall away. And you may feel lonely for a time, but then you'll start to realize that people start coming around that are completely and utterly supportive of your path to be and experience and know this idea of yourself as a wave of love. And when you want to be around them, they'll be perfectly fine with that. When you prefer to say, you know what, I'm kind of tired, or I really just don't want to do that right now, they'll say, oh, that's great, I'll find someone else. There will be this mutual respect. So one of the things that comes with understanding yourself as love is mutual respect for others. They give it to you, you give it to them. You're like two ships on the sea. You come together when it's enjoyable and appropriate, or out of duty, a real wholesome duty, not out of obligatory duty that's really just draining on one of the other parties. And then you sail off into the sunset until the next time. And the more you're able to do this, the more profound your inner realizations will become, and the more influential in a positive way you will be on everyone around you. Because the more that you can embody and know and accept and breathe as though you are a wave of love, the more that permeates everyone else's life around you. So going from this idea of being selfish, it seems that way to people who don't understand the process. But you go from this idea of being selfish to realizing that it is the most selfless thing you can do, because then you have abundant energy to give and be this love around those who are in need, or those who need you as a role model to learn to honor and appreciate and love and take care of themselves. Realizing that if everything is God, well, you are too. And one of the things that can be very helpful is to start looking at yourself almost completely objectively in a detached fashion. Like, look at yourself and say, well, if this was someone else, if this was a friend of mine, how would I want them to take care of themselves? How would I want them to want to be treated? And then start treating yourself that way. That can give you some distance to be able to attend to this. And start meditating every morning, contemplating, focusing on your heart and asking yourself, what would it be like if I could feel and honor and acknowledge that my life truly is a wave of love? How can I see that? What are the little things that occur in my day-to-day experience that validate this? What is the feeling I get when I turn within And I just meditate on the fact that I am a wave of love, just like everyone else is a wave of love as well. But don't worry about everyone else for now. That'll come in time, because then you'll start to see it in everyone else. Then even the people that you were judgmental against, or the people that you were more annoyed with because they would hurt you or they would manipulate you, you'll even start to see them as a wave of love, and you'll start to realize and see that their activity is just an obscuration of that love. And they just don't know how to deal with that, just like you didn't know how to deal with that. So by you accepting and meditating, learning to, you have to accept it, because many of us are so conditioned that even to think about that it produces anxiety. So you have to start meditating on that in your heart and asking yourself, how can I unequivocally understand and feel that I am a wave of love? And do that until it becomes real, until you have the aha moment, and then go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And I think you'll start to see the power of this process. And you will start to subtly, even probably unconsciously, make different choices in your life which lead to greater fulfillment and deeper understanding. And you'll find that the people around you also start to resonate in that same way. So by you understanding and accepting that you are a wave of love, contemplating, wondering what it would be like, you create a resonance. And in time, as you break off all the old crusty stuff, that'll be painful for a little while, so don't give up just because you start to get a little uncomfortable or anxious about whether you can accept this or not, or whether other people can accept it or not. If you can stay true to it, all that crusty karmic baggage will break off, and you will be able to experience and know that resonance, not only within yourself, but within others. That within your heart, throughout your body, throughout your entire being, everything is actually a wave of love on the ocean of infinite spirit.